If you ever ask a developer to make a change, whether it was a website or an app, this will sound familiar. You walk into a meeting, simple request, add the button that exports data to Excel. That's it. And then you see it. The sides, the eye rolls. Weird questions starts flying. Which data? What format? Does it need to work offline? And you're thinking, it's just a button. Why are they looking at me like I asked them to build a rocket? You leave confused. What did you do wrong? Here's the thing, you didn't. There's just a huge gap between how software looks from the outside and how it works inside. And that gap causes all the frustration. Today, 5 things non-technical people get wrong about software development. Not to blame you, but to help you finally understand what's going on. Let's get into it. First, quick intro if you are new here. My name is Mikołaj Sieczka, but you can call me Miko. I've spent over 20 years in IT, started as a developer, then moved into management. For years I was sitting between developers and business people, translating both ways. That's why I'm making this video. So, if you ever felt lost when someone talks about tech stuff and you just nodded along pretending you understood, this channel is for you. No judgment, just clarity. Alright, let's start with the first one. It should be easy to add that feature. You probably said something like this before. I know, I have, before I became a developer. Just add a button. It's only a small change. And from the outside, it makes complete sense. You use apps every day. You tap buttons, things happen. How hard it can be to add one more. Here is how I explain it to people. Software development isn't like snapping Lego pieces together. It's more like adding a new room to a house. Think about it. You want a new room. Simple, right? But wait, you need to run electricity to it. Plumbing maybe. You need to make sure the foundation can handle it. You need permits. You need to make sure the new room doesn't mess up the heating system for the rest of the house. That one simple button? It might need to connect to a database. It might need security checks. It has to work on mobile and desktop. It has to work when the internet is slow. It has to be tested so it doesn't break everything else. What looks like 5-minute job could easily be a 5-day job or longer. So here's my tip. Next time you have a feature request, instead of saying this should be easy, try asking what would this involve? You will get a much more honest answer and your developers will appreciate you for it. Estimates are firm commitments. This one causes so much pain. So much. Someone asks, how long will this take? The developer thinks about it and says, maybe 2 weeks. And somehow in the game of telephone, that is corporate communication, maybe 2 weeks becomes definitely 2 weeks, becomes promised by the 15th, becomes why aren't you done yet? Here's what most people don't realize. When developer gives you an estimate, they are making an educated guess based on incomplete information. They don't know what surprises are hiding in the code. They don't know if the requirements will change midway. They don't know if some third-party service that depend on will have issues. It's like asking a contractor how long a renovation will take before they open the walls. They can guess, but until they see what's actually inside, it's just a guess. I've been doing this for over 20 years and I still get estimates wrong. So, here's how to work with this. Treat estimates as ranges, not deadlines. Ask for best case, likely case, worst case. And here's the important part. Update the estimates as you learn more. A 2-week estimate on a day 1 might become a 3-week estimate on a day 5. That's not a failure, that's the reality. The teams that communicate about changing estimates early, they do fine. The teams that hide it until the deadline, that's where the projects blow up. More developers equals faster delivery. Okay, this one is counterintuitive, but stay with me. The project is behind the schedule. The deadline is coming up fast. Someone in management has a brilliant idea. Let's hire more developers. More hands, more speed, right? Wrong. There's actually a famous law in software called Brooks' Law. It comes from the book written in 1975 and it's still painfully accurate today. It says, adding more people to a late project makes it later. I know it sounds crazy, but think about it this way. You're trying to have a baby. You're told it takes 9 months. Can 9 women have that baby in 1 month? Obviously not. Some things just take the time they take. Here's why adding people backfires. New developers need to learn how the project works. That learning takes time, and it takes time from the people who are already working because I have to teach the new folks. More people also means more meetings, more coordination, more communication. Imagine a group chat with 5 people, pretty manageable. Now imagine 50 people in that chat. Chaos. Everyone's talking over each other. Nothing gets decided. I've seen it happen. Company panics, hires 10 new developers, and 3 months later, they are even more behind than before. What actually works? Small, focused, experienced teams. If a project is behind, the real solutions are cut some features, extend the deadline, or figure out what's actually blocking progress and remove that blocker. More people is rarely an answer. Technical debt can be deferred indefinitely. Alright, let me explain what technical debt is first. Because if you don't work in tech, you probably never heard this term. Technical debt is what happens when developers take shortcuts, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident. They build something that works, but isn't built well. It's messy. It's hard to change later. It's held together with the software equivalent of duct tape. Why does this happen? Usually pressure. We need this feature by Friday. So they build it fast, not right. They will clean it up later. Except later never comes. Here's why this matters to you. Technical debt is like credit card debt. You can ignore it for a while. The minimal payments are small, but the interest keep building. And eventually, it catches up to you. I've seen projects where adding a simple feature takes weeks because code base is such a mess that nobody can figure out how anything works anymore. I've seen teams where developers spend 80% of their time just figuring the code instead of building new things. And here's the worst part. The symptoms shows up as the developers are slow. But the real problem is years of accumulated shortcuts that were never cleaned up. So, what's the takeaway? When your development team asks for the time to refactor, to clean up, to pay down technical debt, take it seriously. It's not nice to have, it's a maintenance. You wouldn't skip oil changes on your car for 5 years and then wonder why the engine failed, right? Same idea. Developers just write code all day. Last one, and this is a fun one because the image most people have of developer is not accurate. Picture a developer at work. What do you see? Headphones on, typing furiously, green text scrolling down black screens like in the Matrix. 8 hours of pure coding, right? Not even close. Here is what a developer's day actually looks like. Maybe 20 to 30% is writing code. That's it. So what's the rest? Reading other people's code, trying to understand how things work. Sitting in the meetings, Yes, developers have meetings too. Debugging, which is basically detective work hunting down why something is broke. Researching solutions, reading documentation, Googling things, using AI for the same. A big chunk? Just thinking, staring at the screen, walking around, working through a problem in their heads. It's just like a writing. If you are a writer, you don't just type for 8 hours. You research, you outline, you stare out the window, you rewrite. The actual writing is a small part of the work. So if you walk by a developer's desk and they are staring into space or scribbling on the whiteboard, they are not slacking off. Might be solving the hardest problem of the entire project. The thinking part is invisible, but that's often where the real work happens. Alright, let's bring it together. 5 things to remember. 1. Features are harder than they look. There's always an iceberg under the surface. Ask what's involved before assuming something is easy. 2. Estimates are not promises. They are educated guesses that should be updated as you learn more. 3. More developers doesn't mean faster results. Sometimes it makes things worse. Small focused teams usually win. 4. Technical debt is real and it accumulates interest. If you keep deferring cleanup, eventually your whole project grinds to a halt. And 5. Developers do way more than type code. Most of their work is invisible. Reading, thinking, debugging, communicating. Understanding these things won't just help you work better with developers. It will help you make better decisions about technology in general. And honestly, it might save you a lot of frustration. If this was helpful, hit that subscribe button. I make videos explaining tech stuff in simple terms. No jargon, no gatekeeping. Drop a comment. Which of these misconceptions have you seen in your workplace? Or is there another one I missed? I read everything. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.